Have you ever wondered how much the tier of your gear makes a difference? Well, you're about to find out, so whenever you're ready, grab your cup of tea, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Do you enjoy all kinds of RuneScape related content? Then be sure to subscribe. In this video, we're going to be testing gear ranging from tier 50 to tier 19 steps of 10 tiers to keep it simple and easy to understand. We'll be using melee gear specifically, but the difference between gear tiers should be almost universal between all three combat styles as long as no set bonuses and other special effects get in the way. All tests in this video were conducted using 3 armor pieces, since at the higher tiers you're probably going to be using different gloves and boots depending on the situation, and the tier 80 armor set used doesn't actually have any gloves or boots. Now we're going to start by looking at the damage increase per tier of weapon and armor using a combat dummy and looking at our min and max hit and taking the average of that number. Now it is worth pointing out that there's a tiny difference between the damage increase potentially when looking at your loadout number changes and the actual ability damage in practice. In this video we'll be using Cleave's average ability damage to figure out the damage increase. But first, a word from today's sponsor, PUBG Mobile, a game that will bring the authentic Battle Royale experience to your mobile device for solo, duo, and squad players. With PUBG Mobile, you don't need to worry about players, as it's an immensely popular free-to-play Battle Royale with tens of millions of players playing every single day. PUBG Mobile also does collabs with brands like Koenigsegg and The Boys, bringing you skins and outfits to collect in-game. Just last month, a brand new game mode was added called Ancient Secrets Arise, available on the Erangel, Miramar, and Livik maps until September 12. This game mode features discoverable temples which will provide you with match-changing loot, given that you're able to conquer these temples filled with mummies, temple guardians, and puzzles. Now through a gold color path, you'll be able to find a special Emperor temple which is guarded by the Pharaoh boss, which once killed will drop special loot that might just give you the advantage to win. That being said, these temples must not be underestimated, so consider looking for a mysterious scarab charm unique to the game mode first. These charms will give you a second life after going down, so that not all is lost if you cannot clear the temple. If Battle Royale games are your thing, there's no better game you can play on the go than PUBG Mobile. Use my link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to get started. I tested the damage increase on combat dummies for both weapons and armor of the same tier, armor with a weapon that is 10 tiers higher, and finally a test without any armor at all at every single weapon tier. The results, excluding the test without armor, are as follows. Column A shows the damage increase you gain from upgrading your weapon to a weapon that is 10 tiers higher. Column B shows how much you gain from both a 10 tiers higher armor and weapon upgrade. Finally, column C shows the extra damage the armor set brought to the table. Simplified, you can say that going from tier 50 to tier 60 gives you about 13.5% more damage. Going from tier 60 to tier 70 gives you about 12% more damage. Going from tier 70 to 80 gives you about 10.6% more damage. And going from tier 80 to tier 90 gives you about 9.7% more damage. Now these tests were conducted without potions, because if you use potions, the damage spread is slightly lower and the percentual increase in damage is also lower. For example, going from tier 70 to 80 with overloads only gives you about 9.65% more damage. And going from tier 80 to 90 with overloads only gives you 8.85% more damage. Now while the damage increase potentially goes down when you go up the weapon tiers, the actual damage that you gain from going up 10 tiers without the percentage included is about the same. The reason it's a lower percentually is because you have more of it. There's more damage, so it's going to be a smaller part of that total damage that is going up. Now you might have already noticed that the damage increase thanks to you increasing your armor set by 10 tiers is very low, only about 1 to 1.3%. That's because the strength bonus added by your armor is very insignificant. In fact, when upgrading your weapon and armor by 10 tiers, your weapon accounts for about 90 to 91% of the damage across all tiers tested in this video. Now from a tunnel vision perspective, it would mean that upgrading your armor is only worth it if the armor set is less than 1/10 of the price. In reality, this is probably a terrible way of going by upgrades, because there's so much more to buy in this game than weapons and armor, of which there are plenty, some with set effects that make them more attractive to buy earlier. What this information does solidify is that upgrading your weapon is always going to be far more important than upgrading your armor. In fact, using a tier 90 weapon with tier 50 DPS armor is still more damage, about 6% more damage, than a tier 80 weapon and a tier 80 armor set. But as we can see from the no armor test, having at least a set of DPS armor, even if it's just tier 50, is important to increase your damage. Because of this damage increase, you don't ever want to use tank armor unless you're using magic, because it has the animate dead spell, and it also has crit bloom, which is a set bonus armor set, But generally speaking, you do not want to be using tank armor. Now I've been throwing around a bunch of numbers, but how does the gear tier increase work in practice? Well, for that I went to the Arglacior. In the test, I killed the Arglacior 5 times of each tier of gear, so tier 50, tier 60, and so on, with 0 mechanics turned on. To make it more realistic accuracy-wise, I sipped a Super War Master potion at the start of every single kill. I also turned off any relics or other boosts that would boost my damage at low HP to make it fair for every single gear tier. I also started every single kill at 0% adrenaline, again to make it fair. The last thing I did to make it even more consistent is use a revolution bar without ultimates that wasn't optimized for actual kills per hour, but instead for consistency. Remember, the kill times are not about speed, it's about the difference between the gear tiers. Keep that in mind. The average kill times for each tier were as follows. Tier 50, 114 seconds to kill the Arglacior. Tier 60, 91 seconds. Tier 70, 75 seconds. Tier 80, 58 seconds. And finally, Tier 90, 49 seconds. Now while the Arglacior is just one boss with a specific defense level, the data collected is still interesting. The biggest kill time decrease in seconds was the jump from Tier 50 to Tier 60 gear at minus 23 seconds rounded off. If you take a look at the jump from Tier 80 to Tier 90, you can see it's significantly lower at only minus 9 seconds. That's less than half the kill time decrease from the jump to Tier 60 from Tier 50 gear. My theory is that the accuracy increase jumping from Tier 80 to Tier 90 isn't as significant as, let's say, jumping from Tier 50 to Tier 60. If we would be fighting a boss where we had 100% accuracy with level 50 gear, the decrease in kill times would be more similar, as it would be entirely damage reliant and not related to accuracy and hit chance. Sadly, there's no such creature in Runescape, and instead I had to use the combat dummies for those tests. Now I also tried testing some other things at other bosses, but due to RNG I figured it wouldn't really be consistent and interesting enough, but one thing might interest you. With my poorly optimized Revo bar I use at the Arglacior, I was using about 12% more food with a tier 50 DPS armor set and a tier 90 weapon than when I would be using a tier 90 DPS armor set and the tier 90 weapon. I'm not sure how accurate or useful that is to every single player watching this, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. So what can we learn from this video? Well, first of all, DPS armor is far better than tank armor for melee and ranged, magic being the exception. Second of all, always upgrade your weapons over your armor, and while not included in this video, getting stuff like invention perks, overloads, and curses is sometimes even more important and better bang for your buck than going up 10 tiers in your weapon. I made a whole video dedicated to overloads and curses similar to this one, which I'll link in the description below. The damage percentage increase of weapons and armor gets lower as the weapon and armor tier goes up, and so does the price. Consider that there's other upgrade options out there, for example the limitless ability or greater abilities like greater concentrated blast, that can be more significant than upgrading to a higher tier weapon. Quite similar to the previous point. Upgrading your DPS armor shouldn't be done at every single opportunity because the damage increase is so minimal. Try upgrading in large jumps. This depends very much on the combat style, but for example, with ranged, it's cheaper to just buy Sirenic outright, which is tier 90, other than Pernix and Armadil. In Melee's case, Superior Statius armor, which is tier 88 DPS armor, is significantly cheaper than Masterwork or Torva or Anima Core for that matter. And yes, all of this probably sounds overwhelming. Welcome to RuneScape. If you're in need of any help or you have any questions, be sure to stop by my Discord server for specific advice. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it interesting. If you did, leave a like down below and maybe even consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.